Well, it is a beautiful day across Australia. This is Tom Panos here, coming to you live wherever you are, Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide, Tassie. Gang, I am so pumped and excited because every time I do some work with REA, we have one goal: make it practical, help you actually get more listings, make more sales, and build your personal brand so you become the mayor of your marketplace. Gang, we're looking at these numbers building up. We've got close to 300 people. We know we've got a few stragglers coming on, but ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, today the talk is going to be on vendor paid advertising. My favorite subject, and the reason why is it is a thing that everyone wins. All stakeholders wins. The vendors win. They get more people looking at their property, and they get better quality people looking at their property, and it improves the perceived value of their property. And buyers love it because they're able to actually see beautiful homes, and they're attracted to the marketing of nice homes. And I'm going to talk about it in a second. They also like homes that have an increased perceived value. And why do real estate agents like it? Because more marketing means more inquiry, more competition. Competition drives the share market up. Competition wins the World Cup, and competition gets top dollar in real estate. So agents love it. And they also love it because not only are you promoting a property when you're doing high level marketing and getting lots of VPA, you're also promoting yourself and your agency. That's not the main reason you do it. It's a byproduct. But guys and girls, it is no surprise when you look at the top 100 agents across Australia, they all run marketing-based businesses. And on the issue of perceived value, let me talk about that for a moment. So this morning, having breakfast, I ordered myself some water with my poached eggs and my smoked salmon and avocado, and came out this bottle here. As you can see, Pellegrino. You can't see the green because I've got a green screen, but you can see it is Pellegrino, right? The Pellegrino bottle. And then you can also buy this Mount Franklin water. And then, of course, you can actually just drink a cup of water out of the tap, which is free. So that got me thinking, this odorless liquid can actually have a different perceived value. You see, when you go off and buy a bottle of Pellegrino, you're paying $8, $9 depending on where you're getting it. Whereas when you ask for tap water, you actually get that for free. Same product, odorless water, odorless liquid. Guys and girls, do you understand the power of branding and marketing? It increases the perceived value of a commodity. And in real estate, we're not only marketing to attract more buyers, but we're actually marketing because in many ways, we're actually improving the perceived value of that home, which is your job. Because one of the decisions you're going to have to make in real estate, are you going to be a house price maximizer or are you going to be a marketing minimizer? Guys and girls, I'm letting you straight. You get good at the marketing piece, you're going to have an endless supply of listings coming in because you're going to have eminence in the marketplace. Also, talking about perceived value, give you an example. So here's a bottle of wine I got stuck into last night. As you can see, not even one glass. And it's a bottle that was given to me at an auctioneer's competition, believe it or not, a long time ago, and I just hadn't opened it. Anyway, the point is I'm looking at this bottle, and this is probably $20 to $30. So we've got this bottle here, which is a Penfolds Grange. This here would retail at about $1,000. It's really interesting. In taste tests with double-blind studies where people can't see what they're drinking, you don't get a ratio of everyone picking the Grange over the cheap bottle. And in fact, there has been research done that actually says if you take the label off, put a Grange label on a bottle of $20 bottle of red wine, people will say, oh, yes, it tastes really, really well. You see, they've got this perceived value with the Grange label that that red wine tastes better. And they'll say things like, oh, yes, I can feel the currants. And you can see these studies online where they're doing red wine taste testing. Guys and girls, I'm letting you know, you've got to understand the concept of when you're a real estate agent, you're also a product launcher. You're launching products into the marketplace. And what you've got to do is make sure that you improve the perceived value of that, as well as telling everyone about it. Now, I know that there's a bit of this tendency and fallacy out there saying, you know, off market. In fact, some of the real estate agents I've been speaking to, and I ask them, how many listings have you got at the moment? They'll say, I've got 4 listings on market and 3 off market. What's this off market? What's this off market? Listen to me very carefully. If they're not on the market, they're not in the market. I've already noticed Apple have launched these new air tags so you don't lose items. Can't you see what they're doing? They're ramping up. They're telling the whole world about it. They're not going off market. They understand you never get a second chance at making a good first impression. And that's what we do in real estate. So today, what I'm going to be doing is running through some models and diagrams to help you sell marketing at the dining room table. So it's practical. You can use it this afternoon if you've got a listing presentation. What I want to do is give you a narrative. I want to give you some dialogue, some scripts, and I also want to give you some diagrams that you will draw with pen and paper at the table. Why do I like drawing them? Because it shows you're not doing a cookie cutter approach. It shows that you're designing a plan, a system for those vendors there and then at that property. It's like you're the architect of a business plan to sell their property for top dollar. So, guys and girls, what I'd like to do is also share with you this wonderful poem, if I can bring it up, and I think I've got it right here, and that is this wonderful poem, and I don't know who wrote it, but it really sums up the world of marketing and the world of actually paying that extra money as an investment in the profits. So here it is. It is unwise to pay too much, but it's worse to pay too little. When you pay too much, you lose a little money, and that's all. But when you pay too little, sometimes you lose everything because the thing you bought is not capable of doing the thing you needed it to do. Does that make sense, gang? That in marketing, all we're doing is making sure that we close all the doors and get every possible buyer in the marketplace to look at this property. And yes, I know the market for most of Australia is absolutely booming right now. And people are saying, Tommy, you don't get it. We don't need to market as much. Everything is selling. We can still sell the property. Well, let me tell you, your job description as an agent is not to sell the property. It is not to sell it to the first buyer. It is to sell it to the best buyer. And that's going to come if you've got a process. And I'm letting you know that it is the process and not the promise of a price that's going to get a vendor top dollar. So, gang, I'm going to start off and I'm going to go off and I'm going to draw some diagrams here to bring you into the conversation. And this is the sort of stuff, my friends, I'd like you to be doing when you're at a listing presentation. The first thing I want you to do is to explain the 10% theory. And that is, this is a very good diagram to draw where you say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, this is the value of your home, right? Let's call this the 100%. My job in real estate is to come along and actually execute a process that's going to include broad-based marketing. So we go out there and find every buyer, not the first buyer and not the buyer that's been sitting on our database for the last 2 years that overanalyzes and underacts. We want to tell the whole world about your property. And then what we want to do is get them to compete. because we clearly know that competition drives the share market up, competition wins the World Cup, and competition gets top dollar in real estate. And because we do that, we're able to get a 10% premium. This is often called the emotional buyer. And one of the things that I love people drawing is this graph here is a wonderful graph to show people, to say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, today at your listing presentation, what I'd like to do is to talk to you about the 4 things that are going to affect the result of your sale. So the first thing that's going to affect it is the price guide that we're pitching it at. Because we clearly know that if we put in a price guide that is attractive, we're going to outprice the competition and get a lot of people interested in your property. And that we know that the way REA does is it works in price bandwidths, and we want to be in a bandwidth that's going to attract a lot of buyers. So the pricing is important. The second thing is the presentation. We simply know that the presentation is the second factor that's going to attract buyers to your property and to pay a 10% premium. Then the third thing that's going to do it is the agent you pick. And then the fourth thing is the marketing and strategy of the agent. So, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, as you can see, these are the 4 things that are going to impact the result of your property. And what I've got to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is this. My job is to go out there and actually let the whole world know that you've come on the market. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to maximize what we call the 30-day period. And I think just drawing it with pen and paper there, or an iPad and a pencil, so they can see what you're talking about. This is the 30-day curve. What happens here from 0 to 30 days is where we get most people looking at your property. Then we get to 45 days and we get less people. So what we clearly know is the longer it stays on the market, the less people look at your property. And in fact, contrary to what a lot of people believe, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, the longer it stays on the market, the cheaper it gets. It's like milk and bread at Woolworths. It doesn't get dearer staying on the shelf. It gets cheaper because it moves from the sweet zone to the stale zone. And I've got to say to you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that the way that we're going to go out and get you top dollar is we're going to try and find every buyer in the marketplace. And that includes the 4 buyer types. Let me run through these. I ran through them once before with you. I'll do it again. We've got the local buyer. We've got the out of area buyer. We've got the active buyer, and we've got the passive buyer. So let me just explain those 4 buyers just for a moment. And the best way to do that is if I just stop the share screen here and I come back here and I just have a quick chat to you about those 4 buyers. You see, the local buyer, my friends, is the person. Let's assume you've got a property in Newtown, right? In Sydney, in Newtown. The local buyer is looking at a listing in Newtown, but they also live in Newtown or around Newtown. That's the local buyer. The out of area buyer does not live in Newtown. They might be living in Bondi Beach, or they might be coming from Melbourne. We don't know. What we clearly know is that they're out of area. And in fact, as we know, there are thousands of expats making their way home back to Australia, due to COVID. And yes, I needed that glass of water, but maybe I should have tasted this one. I really can't tell a difference. Anyway, guys and girls, so let me just go back. Local lives in Newtown. Out of area does not live in Newtown. Might be interstate, might be overseas. Passive and active are the other 2 buyer types. The passive buyer is the buyer who is not sitting, on your database, right? You don't have their data. And what happens is that all of a sudden, they see something that pops up, grabs their attention, and all of a sudden they're interested in real estate. Often they are the buyer that pays a 10% premium. They're the emotional buyer. And then you've got the active buyer, which a lot of real estate agents have defaulted to as their strategy. So they just say, hey, listen, I've got these database buyers. in my database, and these are the buyers that, you know, I'm going to show your property at. I have to say to you, if you are a professional in our business and you're a marketing-based agent, you go out to all 4 buyers in the market and you attract all those buyers. And the reason why you do that, if you don't use 100% of the buyers in the marketplace, how will you know you've achieved 100% of the potential in the values property? And that's going to bring me back into my next diagram. And what I want to do is show you how you move in to actually talking about marketing to a vendor. And I think one of the easiest things to do is to ask them this simple question. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to ask you, do you want me to present you with a marketing program to make you happy, or a marketing program to get you top dollar, that 10% premium? What would you like me to present you with? Now, nearly all people want is top dollar. And this is where you move in and you just, on a simple pie chart, show the elements of marketing. Now, I'm not saying you don't go off and use high tech and you use your, iPad to show what they look like. But initially what you do is you're at a high level of showing them what marketing looks like when you're executing a marketing plan for their home. So it's going to look something like this. We're going to put your property on realestate.com. And by the way, we're going to make sure that we use Premiere, because unless we're using Premiere, we're basically putting a billboard in the forest and no one is going to notice it. We need to make sure that we stand out, because if you want to win out, you do have to stand out, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor. In addition to that, we're going to have it on our own agent website. In addition to that, we're actually going to put it onto our database, our CRM system. In addition to that, what we're going to do is put a signboard up. In addition to that, we're going to get a video done. In addition to that, what we're going to do is have social media. In addition to that, we're going to do a just listed drop. We're going to saturate the area, and we might put it into our magazine or /print. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, as you can see, this is your marketing plan. And I want to let you know, we've got to make sure that our offline and our online are in line, because I want you to know that marketing works in combination, not in isolation. It's very important that you understand that, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor. And I want to let you know, this investment that we're talking about is an investment in the profits. It is an investment in the profits. Every dollar extra we get for your family home, if it's your principal place of residence, is worth 2 times in the economy, because you're not paying tax. So in many ways, when we're selling a property, we're not only presenting it to more people, we're not only improving the perceived value, but we're taking out an insurance policy, just like you do on your car, that you don't undersell the biggest asset that you own. I'm now going to move out of screen share. Oops, let me see. Let's come here, come there, stop that there. We're back in here. Guys and girls, I want you to understand that you've got to sit there and have a strong narrative to a vendor to want to invest in marketing, which brings me to the next point. That psychological research done, in fact, there was a Nobel Prize won in 1979 for behavioral economics by Daniel Kahneman. Look him up, Daniel Kahneman. And he studied something quite interesting, and that is that people feel more pain losing a dollar than pleasure winning a dollar. That's right. Pain avoidance is more important to a person. They feel it more than gaining pleasure, which says to me, when you're sitting there at a listing presentation and you are talking to them about marketing, you should always base it around a context of this. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, what's more important to you? The risk of over-marketing by $5,000 or the risk of underselling by $100,000? That hits home, because people, their biggest asset is their property. And what you're doing is saying, hey, we need to make sure we don't undersell this asset. Now, it would be remiss of me of not to cover some of the kind of marketing scripts and dialogues that I see agents using at listing presentations to help solidify, to help get cut through, even with the most resistant vendors on marketing. And I use this myself at a listing presentation. I went with a client the other day, and I've got to tell you, it worked a treat. Here's what I said at the dining room table. Guys, I want to let you know, there are two types of people that I meet in real estate when they're listing their property. The two types are these. First, there's the short-term thinker who's looking at marketing minimization and looking for the cheapest option. And then there's the second group who are looking for house price maximization and getting top dollar. And they're far more interested in what they can do to actually end up becoming wealthier out of the process. I'm curious, can I ask you, what group do you fall into? And it is a very, very good conversation starter on marketing. The second thing is, often people are going to say, hey, but listen, we get it, but we don't want to do any marketing for 2 weeks and let's just see how we go. What would I say? No problems. I just wouldn't do it the first 2. And I know you'll get a bit of a smile out of them. And the reason you don't do it for the first 2 is, do you honestly think a company, a decent company that launches a new product in any industry, says, let's not tell anyone, let's keep it a secret. Let's just do offline. And if it doesn't sell, we'll then tell people about it. No, 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 no. They know you never get a second chance at a good first impression. They know that there's other competition in the marketplace, and they come out onto the market and they outmarket the competition. So gang, let me give you some scripts and dialogues that I think are going to help you at a listing presentation when you're trying to, swing that person across the line that is being resistant. Number 1, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm only recommending to you what I would do myself. People love that. Number 2, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, you insure your car each year so you don't lose on an asset that's going down. It makes sense to invest in marketing to ensure that we maximize the price of your most expensive asset. We're taking insurance out so we don't sell something that's going up in value. The next thing is this. I want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we have got this situation. You've just got to make up your mind. What's more important to you? The risk of over marketing by $4,000 or the risk of underselling by $50,000? And I'm letting you know, the strategy I'm giving you is to go out there and find the best buyer, not the first buyer. And I am letting you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that if we find a buyer that's emotional, that wants it badly, then we find another buyer that's emotional, that wants it badly, and then we put them together, I want to let you know, that's when we create competition. And then what happens is we've got to go out and find these people. That's where marketing comes into it. And I just want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we're no different to that old John West tuna commercial. John West tuna used to say, we collect, they throw a net out, they pull them all out, they keep the best, they reject the rest. And what do we do in real estate? It's exactly that same process. And I'm pleased to let you know that there's a bit of a game changer in the world of real estate. And in a moment, I'm going to bring someone to the screen. In about 1 or 2 minutes, Seth is going to come onto the screen. And I'm pleased to let you know that REA have partnered with this great business that now basically makes it a no-brainer for a vendor to want to invest in marketing. Why? Because the friction point of asking for money is being taken away. That's the exciting thing about this new product that REA have partnered with. It allows a vendor to actually get a gold campaign, the works, and not have to actually put their hand in their pocket at the time of listing. And that's only a good thing for you, agents. And I'll tell you why. Because it means that you're not sitting there being the collector of marketing. You're out there to focus on your core job. So, Seth, I'm going to bring you into the conversation if I can.
Go, Tom.
How are you, Seth?
I
How
am
are you,
fantastic.
Seth?
That was awesome, Tom.
Thank you. I'm just looking at, someone just brought, please feel free to enter any questions you, yes, so Emma has said, throw in the questions. Now, Seth, I'm going to say this. I reckon you're nearly, maybe equal to passion as I am on marketing. You are like, if I go across Australia, if there's a person that pushed the VPA model, the fact that marketing is good for everyone, and that the fact is that the best of the best agents, and you've had thousands of clients on your books for years, and you look at them writing $3, $4, $5 million, they all have one thing in common. They're marketing-based agents that have extensive media, and they're always on the shopping list because they've got this magnetic eminence effect. So Seth, welcome. I'm pretty excited. I want you, firstly, let's tell everyone who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, fantastic, Tom. So I've been in the industry for 25 years, Tom. I've run heaps of different businesses, on technology businesses. I've got a print business. I've been involved in CampaignAgent for the last 6 years. And I've had the privilege, as you mentioned, of working pretty much with every major brand up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and a lot over in South Australia. Our Western Australian friends, I'm just starting to work over there with you guys, and have really seen this journey over 25 years as this industry has professionalized from sort of small campaigns into now at least the great attraction agents into real media machines. And we've been pretty privileged to support that, Tom, over the years.
So Seth, here's what got me excited. So, by the way, everyone, yes, you can tell I adore what Seth does, and that's why I've got a relationship with their brand, and so has REA. They've partnered. So, Seth, there's always been this issue at a listing presentation. Right. You do these models, and people get excited and they realize, yes, this works for me. I want to get top dollar. And then there's this awkward bit where it comes to the money, right? No one loves to talk about it.
Pull out the card, right? Yeah.
Pull out the card, right? So Seth, there's this awkward feeling. Now, I just wish your product was around when I was at News Corp and I was sitting there selling vendor paid advertising. But I want you to explain how CampaignAgent, or let's just call it this, I think you just call it advertise now, pay later. Is that what you say?
Yep. All of the above, Tom. And listen, you summarized it. I thought you used a great word before, and that was friction. And it's funny, when we first started our journey, we had this idea, and we were trying to find the best people to talk to. And we had the privilege of talking to the head of Visa Australia. And he, when we were talking to him, he said, Seth, payments are about friction. And he pulled out his card and he pointed to the little chip, because he was CEO of Visa when that chip got added to the cards. And when they added that chip into tap and go, it went from typing in your PIN to tapping and going. Within 12 months, their card business increased by 800%. And the lesson from that, Tom, is if you make things easy, if you make things simpler, faster, even by seconds, people's behavior will change. And when we started CampaignAgent and all this sort of buy now, pay later stuff, it is about that insight, right? So our best clients, which are 60 of the top 100 agents in the country, they've got this to the point, Tom, where they no longer talk about money at all in a listing presentation. They literally say, great, listen, we've got a campaign. It's a 15,000, a 10,000, 5,000, whatever the number is in their market. And they're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'll organize for my team to send you your options, and you can do that in the comfort of your own home. So they're removing the friction of payment totally from their listing presentation, which is great. And they get an email and they can pay quickly, whether it's on Apple Pay, Google Pay, credit card, BPay, or they can pay later. And all of these options, as the consumer is getting more sophisticated, more security conscious, we need to make sure we're catering for this stuff. If you are in a living room writing down credit card numbers, not only is that a huge security risk, it's also creating friction. Not to mention, for those of you who are allowing payment on settlement, our pay later options allow you to get the advertising, allow you to maximize the sale without having to worry about all of the cash flow dramas that are associated with that. Heaven forbid, Tom, the collection, because there's nothing more that agents hate than calling up a vendor whose property hasn't sold and saying, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I didn't sell your house, but could you pay me the advertising? By moving onto a platform like ours, we get rid of that. But if I was going to say one word, Tom, it's friction and removing it.
So Seth, here's what my real estate gym members are saying that are using it. I've surveyed them and they've said, number one, we're getting more marketing.
Absolutely.
And I've dug deep on that, Seth. It appears that if your average spend was 3.5, you can actually move that to 4.5. So you end up getting a better quality video, or you might add something like audience maximizer in there, or you just get more marketing.
Yeah, because those top performers, right, are normally the guys and gals who are asking for money up front. And so they're introducing friction. They're doing a great job on commission, on price, marketing, and then they're having to go through payments. When they remove friction, hey, guess what? It's one less objection point, and they can focus on upselling and getting a better campaign. We see somewhere between 10 to 20% uplift on marketing the second somebody rolls this stuff out.
Okay, so Seth, and what I might do is get Emma to actually bring up on the chat box, maybe just to explain. So if there's someone that's sort of sitting there in the audience now and thinking, hey, you know what? I'm going to check that out. I want to see what these guys are going on about. And Danica has done it on the ball. agent.realestate.com.au /products/VPA-pay-campaign-agent. Listen, I think it's easy to copy and paste that. Put it in there, right? Don't try and memorize that. Don't try and memorize it. There we go. The wonderful team at REA have made it nice and easy. Take a screenshot of that. That's your go-to place if you want to explore this further. And thank you so much. Let's take that screen back off. And Seth, listen, my friend, I am so looking forward to working with you, because I know that in probably 2023, maybe 2022, I believe the way people will pay for marketing, this will be like a signboard. This will be the only option. There's not going to be people sitting there, get your checkbook out, get your credit card out. It's not going to be anything like that. I'm convinced.
Tom, the most exciting thing we just last week, actually, what's getting us excited is we just launched Apple Pay. And so you literally, from Realtor Sign or wherever you're doing your marketing, you can double click on your face, pay, and have the whole thing done securely in 10 seconds. Like the future is going to be fast and friction free, and we're here to bring it to everybody.
Seth, I want to thank you so much. And what I might do is finish off the last 5 or 10 minutes just showing a few more images to our audience. So what I might do, Seth, is get you to click off. And then what I'll do is, because I'm mindful that we've got a finish time of around 11:45. And what I want to do, my friends, is just show you a couple of other things that I think are super critical. You see, in real estate, I want you to understand, in real estate, our job is to make sure that we become the mayor of our market, right? If you have worked out that when you do marketing, everything explodes. It's not just your vendor's property, your profile explodes. And I've said it before, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So what I clearly know is this: the best agents I know have got this model. On the one hand, they do chase business, right? So they do chase business. So zero here is that they're not chasing. And down here is we talk attract. So the best agents I know are operating in this model here. They are chasing business, no question about it. They're prospecting. They're out there. They're making their phone calls. They're out there doing their letterbox drops. They're ringing back all their open house buyers. They're using social media intelligently. They're getting, oh, try this, by the way, guys and girls. You're going to have to try this strategy because it is working wonders. As you all know, I'm convinced that reviews are the name of the game. Consumer reviews. You need to make sure you're getting every one of your buyers and sellers actually doing a review at the time you do the deal. Because when you've got vendors that are doing this digital interview, man, they're scrolling through and they're looking at realestate.com. I know a lot of people say, oh, Tom, hey, where should we be putting our reviews? Listen, try and put them everywhere. But if it's too hard to actually do multiple reviews, realestate.com.au is the spot, because you've got the high probability clients looking at that site. And I'm letting you know that some agents are taking the next step, and what they're doing is they're doing what I call the Dear Neighbor letter. This is how it works. You sell a property, you get the vendor to say, hey, would you mind giving me a short testimonial? Yes, yes. And would you mind addressing one to our neighbors? So they write it out. Dear neighbor, I've just sold my home. I sold it with Tom Panos from XY Real Estate. He got me an amazing figure. We've never had an agent work so hard for us in our life. He sold it in 2 weeks. I highly recommend you use him. And you use this as a letterbox drop in the street, because they've written the letter to their neighbor. You'll be shocked at how many appraisals you get, my friends. So guys and girls, what I'm going to do now is put it out to you. We've just spent 35, 40 minutes talking about vendor paid advertising. I showed you a few images, a few models. We did a few scripts. We showed you the game changer campaign agent, where you can advertise now, pay later. Now I'm going to give away a free 12-month real estate gym membership. That's right. I'm giving it away. 12 months of coaching with me. And I'm going to make sure that the person that gets it has been paying attention today. I want you in the chat box to put down your #1 learning before we sign off today. Your #1 learning before we sign off. Can you please put that in the chat box? Fire away. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to type your answers. To win 12 months. Franklin says reduce friction. Keep going. Water is water. Look at these come in. They're flying in. Tap water's free. Reduce friction. Neighbor letter. Get realestate.com reviews. Daniel Kahneman's research. 4 things that affect the value of a property. They're flying in. They're flying in. Wow, we're going to have a challenge on trying to work out who the winner is. So what I'm going to do is at the end of this seminar, we're going to go through all of the comments, and then realestate.com will inform the winner. Keep them coming. Now, there is going to be a survey, Emma, I believe, or Danica, and we'd like you to complete that survey. We'd like you to complete that survey. There it is there. How valuable did you find this webinar? Extremely valuable, very valuable, slightly valuable, or not valuable at all. Guys and girls, complete that there. And I'm letting you know that we will have this presentation sent out to you, the recording. In addition to that, you're going to also be notified if you're the winner of the Real Estate Gym membership. And guys and girls, let me finish off and say this. I want you to understand the marketplace has been booming. And I also want you to understand that it ain't going to continue like that. We're already seeing some signs that the frenzy has eased off. You've got to understand, when we move into a marketplace where we have a level absorption rate, right up to now, we've had a high absorption rate. Basically means that there have been more buyers than sellers. There's been not enough stock. That now appears to be changing a little bit. So what I'm going to say to you, watching this right here, right now, you've got to start understanding when the market transitions a little bit, you've got to become better at vendor paid advertising, because there is less of fear of missing out. It's still hot, don't get me wrong, but I want you to know that this market won't last forever. And the second thing is, I can't get over how many real estate agents say to me, Tom, everything's selling. Why do we actually need to do marketing? Well, it's very simple. It's the same agents that are saying they're not getting any call outs to do appraisals. How can you get a call out to do an appraisal if no one knows what you're doing in the marketplace? It's been Tom Panos from the Real Estate Gym for realestate.com talking to you about vendor paid advertising. And I'm going to leave you on this point. We're not traveling. We're not going overseas to Europe this year because of COVID. Get yourself focused in. We're going to be listing and selling real estate right through the winter period. And the best way for you to become number one in your marketplace is to become a marketing-based agent where you can actually provide a narrative to a vendor and want them to actually invest in marketing. Guys and girls, Tom Panos signing off, and never forget, make sure your future is bigger than your past. Signing off.